Heartland Highways is made possible in part by Sarah Bush Lincoln Health System, dedicated to providing care for all and creating healthy communities in East Central Illinois, offering general and specialty medicine, including a regional cancer center, heart and lung center, orthopedics and sports medicine, a center for interventional pain, and a full complement of diagnostic and rehabilitative services. Sarah Bush Lincoln, trusted, compassionate care.
Thanks for coming along on this edition of Heartland Highways. I'm Kate Pleasant.
And I'm Lori Casey. Now, Kate, you have two really cute dogs, and I know you like to take pictures of them.
We do love to take a lot of pictures of them, but probably not quite as many as this couple we're going to meet in this first story. For the Pringles, taking pictures of their dogs is more than just a hobby. It's kind of like a whimsical art form.
That's right. Kirby and Cindy Pringle will often take photographs of their dogs wearing hats and sunglasses. But as you see in the story, the dogs don't mind one bit.
They enjoy working. I think dogs, especially certain breeds of dogs, once you start working with them, they enjoy working, they enjoy being busy, they enjoy pleasing you. And so when we're taking pictures, they know we're working, and I often think they really know what we want. They know what we're aiming for, and they sort of often give us just what we're looking for.
For a milk bone or a piece of cheese, Buster and Barney will happily pose for the camera. Both dogs are rescue dogs, who today are the main characters in the book Happy Tales, Earl and Pearl on the Farm. Buster plays the role of Earl, and Barney is Pearl.
Actually, for a number of years, I've always wanted to do a children's book, and particularly an ABC book. And I think that idea came, let's do a book, an ABC book, and originally it was just going to be ABCs, but living on the farm, we narrowed it to more farm-specific photos or farm-related photos.
It seems to appeal to adults and as well as children, and that's really what it's aimed for. It's, I think, a book that people of all ages can enjoy, and again, it's humorous, whimsical photos that it just makes people feel good to look at the photos.
Kirby, a journalist, and Cindy, a professional photographer, started taking pictures of their dogs a few years ago. It was the advent of digital photography that made the creation of their signature dog people images easier than with traditional film. But no amount of technology could replace the personality that the dogs bring to the photograph.
Buster is particularly photogenic and willing to model, and he just seemed perfect, and Barney is a perfect foil. Buster has a humorous personality, Barney is more of a serious model, and so we've kind of tune the photos to go also match the personalities of the dogs.
The comedian and the straight man, sort
yeah.
of, you know, Dean Martin, or Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin, I guess, sort of.
One of mine that's a favorite one where Earl is holding a little sleeping kitten in his overalls, and he has this absolutely wonderful sort of protective look on his face as he's gazing right into the camera, and it's sort of a protective, caring, gentle photo.
Most of the pictures in the book were taken at the Pringles farm or around the region. Kirby and Cindy tell us that living in the country has some benefits when it comes to their line of work.
Oh, I'll have to tell about the wig. A lot of our props we find at thrift stores, and I had found this fabulous, big, huge, curly, long-haired wig, and the hair color pretty well matched Barney's fur. And I had him sitting out by the corn crib, and I had that wig on him, and a necklace, a little pearl necklace around him, and I was trying to photograph him, and the UPS man pulled into the driveway. So I had to hurry and whip that wig off of Barney and grab a hold of him, because he normally goes crazy if somebody pulls in the driveway.
Barney likes the UPS man. It might freak the UPS man out to see this dog with a wig and pearls running towards him.
But that's an advantage of living in the country, that we can take these kind of whimsical, funky photos and not worry that somebody's going to go by and wonder what we're doing.
They also like to take advantage of unique places in East Central Illinois. This picture, which represents the letter R for roast, was taken at the meat counter at Thompson's General Store in nearby Camargo. One of the most amazing things about the dogs is their ability to use props or tolerate wearing wigs, hats, and sunglasses.
There's one picture where they're at the dinner table, and he's got a big string of noodles hanging out of his mouth, and he actually had those noodles hanging out of his mouth. They're actually there, which people, it's hard for them to believe, but he actually holds stuff in his mouth really well. Most people, the big question is, how do you do this? How do you do this? That's a question we get asked a lot. And then some people compare our work to William Wegman, and his work is actually quite different. He dresses his dogs up and uses them as props, and he's a great photographer, great artist, but we try to make ours really different, really make them look like dog people and bright colors, and the sense of humor is a little different.
So what's the secret behind those photos? Well, let's just say there's a little bit of Cindy, Kirby, and the dogs in each image.
We're both quite the perfectionists, and we want it to be just right and look as totally realistic as we can make them.
Sometimes we just have to take a photo over and over again, because just to get the exact angle and the exact expression that we're looking for. So it's not an easy process to do. It's pretty time consuming. It takes a week to 2 weeks to finish, from start to finish, a photo, and sometimes longer.
But it's not all work for the dogs. Sometimes a photo shoot can just wear you out. Other times, well, you just need to kick back and act like a dog. For the Pringles, they hope to eventually do this type of work full-time. But at the end of the day, they just enjoy spending time with their dogs and hope to share that joy with others.
Our goal is to bring joy into people's lives, and when we see somebody go in there and just start laughing, and we just feel like we've accomplished our goal. And actually, I'd also, when they say that laughter is a great healer, one of our photos is in a children's hospital out in California, because I just thought, well, maybe there's a location where they really particularly need some joy, and it's actually the photo of Earl and Pearl at the dinner table eating noodles, and it's hanging in the cafeteria there.
Inspiration for kids to eat right with noodles hanging up their mouths. And we like making people smile. That's what we like doing. And every time someone comes by one of our photos, they laugh or they'll point, and it just puts a smile on their face, and that's what we enjoy doing.
Since meeting the Pringles back in season 4, they've now published a second book, and they continue their photography. Now, sadly, Buster passed away, but the Pringles tell me they have adopted 2 more boxers named Finnegan and Daisy. We'll be right back.
Is there a place we should see or a person we should meet? Well, tell us about it. Heartland Highways covers within a 200-mile radius of our home base here in Charleston, Illinois. You can email us at heartlandhighways@weiu.net. Call us at 1-877-727-9348 or send us a letter to 600 Lincoln Avenue, Charleston, Illinois 61920. We're looking forward to hearing from you.
These next 2 stories are all about hats. We want you to first meet Gretchen Potter. Now, to say that she loves hats is a bit of an understatement. She'll even wear one when she's out fishing. And we're not talking about any ordinary hat. Now, while she loves scouring antique stores looking for more hats for her collection, she also enjoys giving hat shows, which educate younger people about hats and bring back memories for others.
My granddaughters came from New Jersey, and they always wanted to play dress up. And so I went to Gordyville, the flea market, and that's where I found a couple of hats, and I brought them back. Well, at that time, I was fishing out on the channel here, and people were watching me fish all the time. So I thought, after the grandkids got done with the hats, I thought, well, these people here are obviously going to be bored watching me fish all the time. So I started wearing a different hat every time I went fishing. Well, then the people around the channel started giving me hats. And then I started wearing them to Gordyville, and the people at Gordyville kept looking for hats and finding them. And so it just sort of blew up from there. And suddenly I had 350 hats.
Black hats, red hats, fancy hats, feather hats, and funny hats. During their fashion heyday in the 30s and 40s, hats were an essential part of every woman's wardrobe, just like purses and shoes today. But changing times and the Catholic Church would move hats from the front of the closet to the back.
It was Vatican II when the Roman Catholic Church said women no longer had to wear hats. Plus, after the war, cars got lower, so you couldn't drive a car and wear a hat. And so people stopped wearing hats, and they started teasing their hair. Do you remember the 60s and the 70s with those huge hairdos? Well, you can't put a hat on top of a hairdo like that.
For Gretchen Potter, hats are a passion. At her lake home near Paxton, Illinois, her hat room is filled to the brim with hats in every size, shape, and color.
I just love going to hat stores and trying on hats. And my sister Linda and I, we scour the antique malls just looking for the right thing. Like, you don't find many of these. This is a 1920s, an authentic 1920s cloche. Well, these are really hard to find. And so that's one of our goals that we keep trying to find. And we keep trying to find hats that aren't black.
Looking inside the hat reveals the department stores where the hat was purchased, or in this case, the hat designer or milliner as they were called.
This is a hat made by Raymond Hudd, who was a milliner in Chicago. And his business card said, "Hats to drive a woman wild." Well, when I bought the hat, if you look inside, there's a serial number and a little rhinestone. Mr. Hudd designed hats for Phyllis Diller, Joan Crawford, Mrs. Potter Palmer, who was a society lady in Chicago. And every hat he made was unique and had a serial number.
Gretchen's hats are not all fancy women's hats. In fact, this is one of her favorites.
And I brought it home, and my husband Dick saw me, and I'm walking in the house like this, and he said, "That's not a girl's hat. That's a Navy hat." And I said, "Oh, yeah?" And he said, "Yeah, have you checked the secret pocket?" And I said, "What do you mean secret pocket?" He says, "Give it to me." He opened it up, and in the front, underneath the insignia, is a pocket. And there was a piece of paper in it. And when we opened the piece of paper, it was the picture of a naval ship. And the name on it is the USS Mercy. Well, we went online on the internet and looked up the USS Mercy, and it was a hospital ship in World War I. And then Dick said, "Well, turn the lining in, and you can find the name." And it is. There's a name in here that says R.F. Prey Jr. Well, I haven't looked that up, but this is a hat that tells a story even when there's no one there to tell it.
For hat collectors, the most prized ones are those with feathers that are in good condition. So it doesn't matter what the hat looks like, Gretchen is going to add it to her collection.
This one is probably the ugliest hat I own, I would say. It's a cocktail hat from the late 1930s. You can see that the feathers are just a little bit needing a little repair, but I can't imagine going to a cocktail party.
I'm sorry.
I know. It's just, it always brings a laugh.
There's more to this collector than just finding the perfect hat and locking it away in a closet.
It's the stories that make the hats. And so, well, I have this whole room of stories here, but I can't share them unless I go out and do hat shows. So that's why I started doing hat shows at nursing homes and stuff.
So with the help of area Girl Scouts who model the hats, Gretchen's hat shows take place at nursing homes like Heritage Nursing Center in Champaign, Illinois.
And it's just a buzz, because the girls learn about the hats. They get to wear them, they get to prance around, and the ladies at the nursing home just love it. And so that's sort of the way we work the new generation in with the old generation. And it's really fun. The most important reaction that I ever got was a lady who stood up at one of those, and she had brought her own hat. And she said, "This is a hat I bought when my husband was diagnosed with cancer 5 years ago." And she said, "I bought the hat because I was just so tired of taking care of him and I needed something to make myself feel well." She said, "I haven't worn this hat ever. My husband died last week, and you've given me the opportunity to wear my hat for the first time." And I mean, it just grabs you, you know? And it's those kind of stories that make you feel real special when they tell you those.
We have to thank Gretchen Potter for telling us all about this next lady.
We had a great time when we met up with hat maker Pat Milchuck in Paxton, Illinois.
After all, who wouldn't have fun when you get to try on beautiful hats that are made by the hands of this talented woman?
A hat gives confidence. When you put a hat on your head, you feel completely different. You have confidence. You don't care what anybody else is thinking. I have this on. I know it's a presentation out there in the world. Hats, well, it goes all the way back to my original business here in town on Market Street. For about 15, 20 years, I had an original design shop, and I designed clothing, and that went not only bridal, but streetwear, made winter coats with matching hats, you know, mink hats, beaver hat, and bags to match. And so I've been in this since 24 years old. I have been in this design business all my life.
For Pat Millchuck, that love for design actually started as a young girl when she and her older sister made hats and dresses for their younger sisters.
My first sewing machine was a Minnesota sewing machine that was treadle, and Mom knew I had, I guess, this in my blood, so she had the treadle taken off and electricity put to it, a motor put to it, and that was my very first sewing machine. It was my grandmother's from the old country.
In 1956, Pat earned a diploma from the National School of Dress Design in Chicago. She then went on to own and operate a clothing design and sewing shop on Main Street in Paxton for several years. After closing, that need for design was still there, so she got back into it again, this time focusing all of her energies on hats. Still located in Paxton, this time at the State Street Mall on Route 45, Simply Pat's Hats and Things is a one-woman operation.
And I have had the most wonderful time of my life with this. It's very fulfilling, and I'm still designing. And I'm 71, and I'm still in the business. And it gives me everything I need. I don't draw anything out. I never draw anything out. I just start shaping and seeing how, do I like that curve? Do I like that fold? And sometimes the findings and a piece of fabric that I get says, oh, I can see it like this, or I use anything. I use old jewelry for trims, buttons. If they tell their own story, I'll use them on a hat, and from that little finding, the hat will be built around it as I see it in my own mind's eye.
Pat's tiny workshop is covered floor to ceiling with hat-making supplies and decorations. Using an ironing board as her workspace, she does all of her hand sewing work and shaping of wool hats using a process called blocking.
But it's a step. Everything is a step. It's wet, and you get the first shaping in. Then I add stiffener, just a little bit at a time, and see how stiff I want it. Some of them are real hard. This one is a softer shaping, and but the edges are very stiff.
When it's all finished, a hat like this one has taken Pat about 2 weeks to complete. And while most turn out the way she imagined them, some end up in the trash. For a little while, anyway.
I had it all done. I thought it was exactly what I had pictured in my mind, because everything's in my mind. I can see the finished product. I got it done, and I always try it on my head. I put it on, I says, oh my gosh, this is so bad, there's nothing. So I threw it in a garbage can. I was so disgusted because I put hours of working on that. So it was in the garbage can. I came in the next morning, took it out of there, took the brim off, and restyled the whole thing, and it's an absolutely gorgeous hat now. But I have a very solid, dependable clientele that like dress hats. They know how to put them on and cock them on their head, and they know when it's their hat. I just finished a purple one Friday night, and I put it out on one of my hat forms here, and one of my regulars from Champaign came in, tried it on. She called me yesterday. She says, it's my hat, save it for me. So that's how it goes. But there's people that want a straw, a matching straw bag and hat to just wear out to have fun. It just depends on the person and what they're looking for. I try to have something for everyone.
Not only does Pat create new hats, she also does restoration work too.
I just absolutely love it, and I'll redo shapes, and they all have to be cleaned completely inside and out. New sweatbands put in, and then I redesign them, reshape them, and if there's any way to save that hat, I'm going to save it.
And while she didn't wear a hat for our interview, Pat is most definitely a hat wearer and is even better at picking out the right hat for the right person. At an age when most would consider slowing down and taking it easy, Pat has no plans to retire anytime soon.
No, I'll probably be making hats as they're trying to put the lid down. They'll probably have a row of pins or the big tacks in my mouth. I am being laid to rest. They better put a hat on my head when they put me 6 feet under.
If you'd like to purchase a copy of any Heartland Highways program, visit our online store at weiu.net. DVDs are available for $25 each. Visa, MasterCard, Discover, or American Express are accepted. If you prefer, you can call in your order at 1-877-727-9348. Just let us know what show you're interested in by mentioning the story name or the person featured in the show. Please allow 4 to 6 weeks for delivery.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed this week's adventures on Heartland Highways.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you'll come back again next time.
Heartland Highways is made possible in part by Sarah Bush Lincoln Health System, dedicated to providing care for all and creating healthy communities in East Central Illinois, offering general and specialty medicine, including a regional cancer center, heart and lung center, orthopedics and sports medicine, a center for interventional pain, and a full complement of diagnostic and rehabilitative services. Sarah Bush Lincoln, trusted, compassionate care.
The Pringles kind of make picture taking.
Horse lips. We're so glad we had this time together.
Won't you be my neighbor?
3,